Welcome back to another episode of the D Puckcast. I'm Keith.
I'm Chris.
And this is Keith.
Feel free to follow us on Facebook and on YouTube, D Puckcast. We're going to stick with the format that we did last week.
Seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, we got Bremer here. We each gave Bremer like a little category, so Kelly and I don't know what each other like.
Two questions that he's going to ask us, 2 questions each, and we don't know what they are, so we'll see where these go.
Okay.
All right.
First question.
This is for you, Kelly. This is from Keith. What players will be the key for their team to win in the playoffs?
Like, which players do you find would be the most important going into the playoffs for their team?
Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously, if you're talking about a team like Edmonton, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, right off the bat.
Another one for that team. Talbot's going to have to perform better than he has the past 2 nights.
Yeah, but before that, he had 2 straight shutouts, so he can, and sometimes he doesn't.
McDavid will score, Draisaitl will score. It's going to be up to Talbot to play consistent.
Also, Lucic needs to step it up in the playoffs. That's going to be a big one because they're going to need that physical presence, but also that extra point scoring. I think there's some obvious ones, like the Blackhawks are going to have Kane and Taves.
Yeah, like we know that they're going to be the players.
Yeah, for like the Rangers, Zibanejad is going to need to be big. Nash is going to need to stay with his defensive game that he is so good at, but also chip in the goals. And Henrik Lundqvist is going to have to come up big because that defense isn't that great.
And if he gets a little shaken up, Ronta needs to come in and play strong.
Yes, which he is capable of doing, but you'd rather see it be Lundqvist locked in, ready to go.
Blue Jackets, their entire team just needs to stay.
They need to play as a team. They can't... Like, that's what has gotten them to where they are, is they play as a team.
Like, no one's really gotten under their skin yet. They haven't been down 3-1. They haven't been the losing team yet.
For the Penguins, obviously, it's got to be... Crosby's got to be good, but, I mean, usually you don't have to worry too much about that. But you need Phil Kessel.
Yeah.
You need, Malkin to stay hot like he's been all year, obvious ones. But there's other guys, too, that they're going to need. Nick Bonino. They're going to need their defense to step up because they don't have a great defense.
Yeah, they have Dumoulin, who's playing a lot of minutes for them.
Ian Cole.
Yeah.
Guys like that. Out in San Jose, team like San Jose, you're going to need, Brent Burns, Logan Couture to lead the team.
You're going to need them to lead. No one really to step up, just to stay in their roles.
Yeah, play their roles and do what they're supposed to. In Anaheim, you're going to need the same kind of deal. You need Getzlaf and Perry, Raquel, guys like that.
I think Boston's going to need Tuukka Rask to step it back up.
He needs to get locked back in.
Yeah, I think Marchand, he's just going to be the nasty player, and he's going to be nasty. He needs to stay out of the penalty box for him.
Yeah, he needs to watch to not go over that line in the playoffs. And for a team like the Capitals, too, you're going to need to see them, Ovechkin have a better playoff than a season that he's had.
Yeah.
And you also are going to need Shattenkirk to play big.
I think a player in them who we might see step up is Brett Conley. He's been
good.
Well for them.
He's been good, and Jay Beagle, I believe, is also having a pretty solid year for a guy that's like third line, something like that. Minnesota, you need Dubnyk to be hot. You need him to be going in and doing it, and you need Brandon Sutter or Ryan Suter to, be that big minute-eating monster that moves the puck, shuts it down.
They got a couple young defensemen still with Dumba, Scandella, just to play smart.
Yeah. Don't let it overwhelm you.
St. Louis, Allen.
It's really going to rely a lot on Allen and finding the goal scoring. I think the rest of the team is enough prepared. They've been to the playoffs enough. They know what to expect. They need Allen in his first year as like the true starter to really grab it and be like, okay, I can handle this. It's not too much for me.
Well, a team like Calgary, I don't think they can rely on the goalie to win that game. They're gonna have to put up five goals a game.
Elliott's been really good recently. They need him to continue that.
They might need to put up all those goals.
But Elliott's, his career, he's shown he's a very, very good goalie. I mean, he had a terrible 3/4 of the season, but this last stretch he's been on absolute fire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they could be a surprising, dangerous team. I never took the Flames seriously going into the playoffs, or like even up until this recent hot streak for him.
Yeah,
because they didn't have the goaltending, so it was like, well, they're just going to get walked over.
4-3,
If Elliott's actually going to shut the door, the Flames could surprise some people.
Yeah. Who is it in Nashville? They're the other wild card, I believe, right now, right?
Yeah, I believe they are. They need
Pecorine. I don't think he's going to carry him. I don't think he's going to do anything. He's just going to be Pecorine.
I think he's going to hurt them more than anything.
Yeah, they need Subban.
They need Subban to chip in more on the offensive side, I think.
Bring a little bit more energy to the team.
Yeah.
Because right now, their best defenseman has been Ellis.
Yeah, he's been.
But it should be Subban, the one who's controlling the energy for that team from defense.
Yeah. Is there anyone else we've missed? Oh, Toronto. If they make it.
That's such a wide open thing. They're way too young.
They're not. They would need a miracle. They don't have the team enough to do anything yet.
If they win their first 2 games, though, they're going to be scary because they're going to have all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, those young guys are going to be riding
if they
really
lose the
high.
First 2 games, they're getting swept for nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
That pretty much covers it right now. I guess we'll move on to the next question.
All right. This is from Chris. Has the Department of Player Safety done enough for the players?
In some cases, yes, and then in others, they kind of just ignore a lot of things. It seems like.
Okay, yeah. Specifically, I was thinking about like the way they deal with suspensions.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I like what they've done with the concussion protocols and stuff like that. They have the spotters.
That's been very good. Yeah.
I think that's a great thing. They've done well with that. I think the suspensions are a joke still, though. Like, you see repeat or just really dirty, like unnecessary hits get like 2 games. That does nothing. Okay, they forfeited $30,000. Ooh, whoop-de-doo. It's not going to stop them from doing it again.
No, because they're probably getting some other incentive for making that hit.
Yeah, somewhere it's coming from something else. And, I mean, if it was working, I think you would see less and less happening.
Yeah.
But we're still seeing dirty plays. And then you see ones that are really dirty, but the guy gets off. Or he doesn't even get a phone call. Like Sidney Crosby.
Crosby's
ball tap.
Yeah, a little ball tap on O'Reilly.
Not even a phone call.
Like, Puck's nowhere near it. Riley's not doing anything. He's just standing there. All of a sudden, whack.
And you don't even get a phone call. And tonight he just chopped a guy's finger off.
Yeah.
Guarantee you won't get a phone call for that either.
Away laughing.
Yeah. Guarantee you there's going to be no phone call or hearing or anything about that either. It's just there's too much not consistent punishment, and not like it's okay if you're this guy, we won't really do anything, but if you're someone else who we're not as interested in making the face of the NHL, we'll throw the book at you.
Or Ristolainen's 3, I think, was okay for that hit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ristolainen's hit. I think he was still expecting the puck to be there more and for Gensel to be paying attention because he has his back to him and he's just expecting him to kind of see it, and he didn't at all, and it just crushed him.
And he turned.
But I think it is deserving of maybe a 2-3 game suspension. That's fine.
Matthew Tkachuk for his first offense, he got the 2.
He's a bit of a dirty player though too. You got to keep an eye on him in the future with repeats.
He's definitely going to jump up there in the.
Brad Marchand's, had quite a few.
He gets away with a lot of it,
he gets away with a lot though. He's another one of those players. It's like if you put up more than 60 points, you can pretty much get away with anything.
But I mean, like for like a slew foot like that, like mid ice, like 2 games here, 4 games, he'll start realizing, oh crap, I'm not out there anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with like first offenders being at like the 2 and 3 games. But I think it needs, like, if you're repeating, your suspensions need to go up a lot.
Season?
Yeah, especially like second, third time a season, you should be missing like 10 plus games.
But say a player did one this year, and the previous offense was like 4 years ago. Then you kind of set it back to a first offense on a time basis.
Yeah, but if you're seeing it, especially Radko Gudas has been relatively quiet this year on the suspension front, minus the start of the season.
Yeah, but I mean,
like last year, he was suspended like 2 or 3 times, and he got lucky. There were like 3 other times he could have been.
I'm pretty sure his next one's 20 games, no matter what it is.
It should be. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been in so much trouble before. I mean, you had Matt Cook before that, who was always
like take a skate to the back of Carlson's heel,
or just lift a knee into some guy's head, or some guy that's not even anywhere like in the play and just skate by him and throw an elbow into his head.
And Rafi Torres also like a whole season the 1 year.
Yeah, I mean he was a dirtbag too, but
but he got what he deserved for
Yeah.
that play.
and I want to see the punishments more
Fitting for the crime.
fitting for the crimes and not like because you're this good player we're not going to do anything to you.
Yeah, because you're the babyface of the NHL.
Yeah, you're
No.
our golden boy.
No one should be
Above,
safe
yeah.
from it.
Because a dirty hit to the head is a dirty hit to that, or it was shot to the balls. Yeah. Like there's no need for that. Like if you're battling for a puck and a stick accidentally ends up there,
Okay.
yeah, if it happens, it sucks, and you carry on. But that was just totally blatant. I mean, spearing, just whoop, no reason, just walks away.
Okay. I guess we'll move on. My second one.
This is Keith's
I
second
think you like this
question.
question, Chris.
Do NHL teams need an elite center to win and be successful?
I don't know if it necessarily needs to be a center. I think a lot of teams do need that elite forward, though.
See, for me, I kind of believe it needs to be the center. You look at some of the top players in like Pittsburgh won last year. They have Crosby, Malkin as their centers.
I mean, definitely that does help. But I mean, if you look, I know like Ben and Sagan. Forget which one of them is the center, but
Sagan.
it's Sagan, yeah. But I mean, Ben's an elite force.
Yeah, but you have Sagan as
the
the
center. It does definitely help, but I mean, there are teams that get by with just an all-around team. Like the Rangers don't have any elite centers.
Yeah, but I mean, they're one of the, like them, the Blue Jackets,
It's
and the Blues.
it's an all-around.
The Blue
team
Jackets
game,
and the
yeah.
Rangers are kind of similar. The Blue Jackets are like a younger Rangers. They're all more all-around team, but
Yeah.
Blues are just defensive team.
But that's the thing is you run into is do you want to pay more people less money to be all around, or do you want to have to invest like $10 million or $8 million into one guy?
But if you think about the past few years, who have been the most dominant teams? The Blackhawks.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Toews,
Yeah.
one of the best centers in hockey. The Kings, Anze Kopitar.
Until this year.
So this year.
Well, actually, and that's also, I guess, a good way to prove a point because, I mean, Anze Kopitar is their top center. He's having a terrible year, and the Kings aren't going to make the playoffs.
Capitals, Nicholas Backstrom.
Yeah, he's one of the most underrated people in the NHL for all the stuff he does.
Where'd Toronto come from? They were terrible last year. They bring in what? Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner at center.
True. It definitely does immediately give you a boost, a jump.
I think as far as if you had a choice of where your elite player was, I think center would be that position you want them to be.
Yeah, I think that's also, I mean, you want to have someone who can win, especially if they're good at face-offs.
Yeah.
I mean, winning the face-off and getting possession is, like, the most important part of, the game.
You got to, like, Edmonton, you have Connor McDavid.
Yeah. If you win the face-off in their zone, then you're setting up and shooting. And if you win it in your zone, they're not getting it and shooting at you.
Yeah,
So
and that elite player, since they're a center, they're usually the one in front of the net, making the plays happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have any more to add on that.
No, I think that's I think that just about wraps up that.
But do you think you need to be a top contender in the league, or have a higher chance? Do you need an elite center?
I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I think you have a higher percentage of a chance of
it will help you win
being
with an elite center rather than having like an elite winger.
Yeah. I think you have a higher percentage,
Yeah.
but like I said, not like always. That's not always going to be the case.
Okay.
Okay, Chris's second question. How can you increase scoring in the NHL?
There's kind of a few different things they could do. I mean, they keep trying to change the size of the pads, the clothes they wear.
Yeah.
The goalies.
See, that's the one that they went with this year. Is they did the more form-fitting like pants, and I know with a lot of the goalies they had to switch brands, some of them, because like Bauer, when they switched, I think their pants down to, or CCM, one or the other, when they switched their pants to the more rounded shape, they were a little more streamlined. Goalies were getting like massive bruises and welts from them because they kind of had to rush them out too quickly.
Yeah.
And they weren't prepared enough. I know a couple goalies switched over from, it was either CCM or Bauer to Vaughn because they were more protective. So you have goalies all of a sudden in the middle of the season having to switch equipment.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, when you look back at the 90s, goalies wore smaller equipment, but players didn't shoot as hard. Now you really have to be protected against shots like, Chara.
Like the thing I think now, when you look at the goalies back then compared to goalies today, the style the goalies play today, the amount of more... A goalie today has so much more training than a goalie did back then.
Yeah, and they're also just generally bigger, and there's nothing you can do about that.
No, back then a tall goalie was 6'1".
Yeah.
Now you have 6'7" goalies.
And I've heard people, in games, announcers and stuff like, or other hockey analysts like, well, maybe they should limit the size of the goalies. Like, you can't be a goalie if you're smaller than, or you're taller than like 6 foot. Well, then these guys that are in the system that have been training their whole life to be an NHL goalie who are expected to make it, all of a sudden like, oh, you're disqualified.
Yeah, that's just...
Like, that's not fair. That's stupid.
You can't have anything against the size of a person.
No, you can't do that. That's never going to work. And the person that thought of that idea should be slapped in the face.
I think they just need to put a team on the side, maybe grab some older goalies who are willing to work on something. Design a perfect pad size per height of a person.
Mm-hmm. But I've also had a couple ideas aside from just the goalie and the equipment in general. That trapezoid rule needs to go.
Yes.
That is, I'm amazed that it's still a rule. Not only does it get goalies out of the net more, which creates an empty net, which gives the chance that they're not going to get back in time and there's going to be a goal, but also for goalies that are good at handling the puck, it can enable them to set up more plays going up ice. Like a guy like Mike Smith can throw passes down the rink from his own corner to maybe set up a goal.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
The offsides replay for me needs to go.
Yeah. At first it seemed like a great idea, and now it's just turned into a joke. It's like, was his foot a quarter of a centimeter off the ground when it went? Or it wasn't meant to be that like scientific exact. Like, it was supposed to be like,
if they didn't call
if they
it
missed
2
the
minutes
call
ago when they went into the zone, you shouldn't be able to call it anymore.
Yeah, not like something so minute.
If it was like a 2-on-1 breakaway, that's where the offside was, and you score within 3 seconds of entering.
Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, if you're in the zone, you're passing back and forth.
They come in, the goalie makes a save, they get it back, they go around, they're battling in the corner, they pass it back to the point, shot goes in. Okay, you've had plenty of chances to get the puck and get it out of there. You shouldn't be able to go back 2 minutes and they take that.
If your team's able to set back up on defense,
it
shouldn't be allowed
or
to call.
Corner puck battle or some way that you could have gotten the puck.
But then it comes like, oh, was that considered they were back on defense?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of comes down to the referee's discretion then, I guess. Yeah. They can see the play from their little notepads. Another one I would like to see, too, which I don't think the NHL would ever go for, is expand the rink.
Not even a lot, maybe.
Not a lot, like 3 feet.
Yeah. 1.5 each way.
Yeah, 1.5 each way wide and 1.5 long. Don't move the nets back. Leave that extra gap behind the net so there's more room for... Because right now it seems like, especially if the puck goes in behind the net, it's just... Nothing happens. It just turns into a cluster, and it's hard to dig it out or do anything. Leave that net up a little bit and let them have that space to move around.
With that gone, with the trapezoid gone.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ice.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that would immediately...
The only hard part with that would be... How much would that probably cost each NHL team to expand?
Yeah, I think some teams might be able to accommodate it. Other teams would have to do probably some pretty solid renovations.
Like the Rangers, because they play Madison Square Garden where the Knicks play.
Yeah.
They got to put a basketball court there. How is that going to work with that on top and all that?
Yeah, there are going to be some issues that would have to work out, but I think that would probably be the best way to alleviate the problem. Because, I mean, like when you watch the KHL... And you watch, international leagues, the rinks are so much bigger. There's so much more room for the players to skate around.
If they want to show off their talent, like Connor McDavid's and all that.
Could you imagine with him with more room? I mean, he already does amazing things with the room that the NHL ranks give now. Imagine that expanded. That would, I think, go a long way to...
It would make more of those playmakers viable in the NHL.
Mm-hmm. There's also some other ones I've seen floating around, which would be to kind of basically eliminate the blue lines as the offside and make the red line the offside. I don't know.
That just seems weird.
That didn't sound like... I didn't know how you would feel about that.
Yeah, that's kind of like a weird setup because they have a lot of the... Like a long pass. You got to wait at the red line for that now?
Yeah.
That's a little...
It kind of screws up the breakout, but then at the same time, it's not like the puck goes out of the blue line, all of a sudden. It's not quite as much of a big deal.
Maybe move it back a little bit, maybe the blue line.
Yeah.
Not eliminate it.
Yeah, maybe lessen up the neutral zone, but give a little more room in the forward zone.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it does seem to feel like it gets a little congested.
Yeah. Well, we got time for one more question. Keith, you said you had one for us.
I do have one for you guys. Which team from each conference do you think will have a bounce back year next year?
That's funny. That was actually one of the original questions I was going to ask.
Well,
Nope.
didn't have to think too hard then.
You'd be surprised.
Well, all right, don't hurt yourself now.
There's a couple teams I think that are still they could still make the playoffs. That I expected to solidly be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Are you thinking teams at the bottom of the barrel right now?
Teams.
Or who is going to be the most improved team coming into next year?
I'm thinking who improves more. Even though there's teams that were bad this year or didn't live up to par, almost like Tampa, so to say, they really haven't lived up to par. But teams that can really bounce back and be what they're supposed to be. Kind of if they're supposed to be in the playoffs, they will be in the playoffs next year, you think?
Okay, so for me, I guess in the West, I'd have to say the Dallas Stars. They have so much talent there. I mean, they're missing the playoffs this year. They have a sub-500 record.
Yeah, I agree with you, definitely. I think Dallas will be back in it next year with Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, even Spezza, Sharp, healthy.
Yeah.
I think they'll be in a better place than they are now.
Another note, I think Winnipeg will make the playoffs next year.
I believe so, too. From the East, I think Florida.
You think they'll have the bounce back?
I think they're going to have a bounce-back year next year. They have a lot of talent. They just were dealt a lot of injuries this year to all their big players, and there was a lot of off-ice distractions with the coaching, the ownership.
Yeah.
I think that all played a big part into it.
For me, I'm going to think the Lightning will have the bounce back. They'll be back in the playoffs. Stamkos is back healthy.
They still have a chance to make it this year, but it's going to be tight.
They're a little bit out.
I think Florida had the bigger drop than Tampa Bay almost kind of did.
One of the teams out of the playoffs who I think will be in it next year, Buffalo Sabres.
I think they're going to finally get into the second wild card spot next year.
Yeah.
As far as teams that if you want to actually look at the flip side of it, what teams are overperforming this year that won't be in the playoffs next year?
Maybe Ottawa Senators.
That's who I'm staring at whole through right now. Ottawa
and Montreal, they're both looking at me.
Montreal, I think, could still make the playoffs next year
Because of price.
Because of price. Not at where they are, but Ottawa, I don't think
they'll make a wild card. I would guess, but they're not going to be 40-24 at this point next year.
No,
they'll be 36 and something.
Yeah, I think they'll be close, but they're not going to make it in. They'll be just on the outside, outside looking in next year. And I struggle to say because I think they're still a good team, but I think Calgary might not make it next year either. I think they might be a little ahead of themselves right now from where I think they will be more in the future, more regular, but...
What was it, 2011-12 season, Devils made the Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
They remind me of that kind of story right now.
Yeah, that's kind of the same feeling I get. Or Colorado a couple years ago.
Maybe, yeah, I'm going to go more Colorado. They got a little bit more talent than the Devils do.
Yeah. Sorry, Keith, I think the Devils stay pretty much in the basement next year.
I agree.
Coyotes probably have another year down there.
What do you think about Carolina? You think they make the jump next year?
I do. They have a very powerful offense. It's going to depend who they... If they can get...
You need defense.
Yeah, 2 defensive players. I think they'll make a push for it. I don't think they're quite ready for it.
I think they're going to be it's going to be like Ottawa, Carolina outside looking in next year.
I think Carolina's going to turn into what Winnipeg is this year. And
You look at them and go, they should be in with that roster. They're
missing,
just
like,
not
the
there
players.
yet. Yeah.
A lot of them now have the experience with Jeff Skinner has the experience now.
Yeah, Sebastian Aho.
Yeah. Jacob Slavin's been really showing up at the end of this year.
Victor Rask.
Yeah, like they have the players there.
I think they need to
mature.
shore up the goaltending a bit, and a little bit more of the depth defense. I mean, you got Justin Falk.
He's a good defenseman.
Good defenseman, yeah.
Great.
But I still don't think they're quite there yet.
No, at this point next year, they might be the team. We're like, oh, we'll see them in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, they could be that surprise. Every year there's always like a surprise team, usually from each conference. So they're like, how are they in the playoffs? I don't get it. And this year, obviously, I think it's Ottawa in the East, and I think it's kind of Calgary out west.
Could be a little Toronto out in the East.
Also Toronto, yeah, you're right. Toronto.
I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the year, people were like, Toronto's not going to do anything.
I think I knew Toronto wasn't going to be, battling it out for the last place spot again this year.
Yeah.
But I thought they maybe would be, 6th, 7th from the bottom in the league.
I thought they would be the team 4 points out of the wild card right now.
Yeah, they could have been, because, top 6, the 16 teams make it. I thought they could be around 20.
Yeah.
Something around there, 21. But, hey, they're in the mix for it this year. Good. I wonder if next year, though, you don't see him take a step back and come back down to earth and be like, all right, we're kind of back on the schedule we were really kind of on before.
We're going to have to see how they play in the playoffs first.
Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps us up for tonight. Thank you for listening.
Next week we'll be back with another episode. If you have any questions for Keith to ask us next week, hit us up on Facebook, and we will try to get them answered.